General Vextor of the Krillian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, his 4 arms crossed in contemplation. His species had conquered 1,000 worlds, subjugated countless civilizations. Now they had come for Earth. The bridge hummed with the confident chatter of his officers, each member of his crew a veteran of a dozen successful invasions. The Krillians were the galaxy's apex predators, 8 feet tall, armored in natural chitin that could deflect most energy weapons, possessing 4 arms that made them unmatched in close combat. They had never known defeat. General, his tactical officer chirped, her compound eyes fixed on the display. The humans have deployed only 3 vessels to meet our armada of 50 warships. Vextor's mandibles clicked in amusement. 3 ships? Against the might of the Krillian fleet? They mock us with their ignorance. Perhaps they wish to surrender, suggested his second-in-command, Subcommander Thexar. Many species send token resistance before accepting the inevitable. Sir, they're hailing us. On the view screen appeared a human face. Scarred, weathered, but wearing an expression Vextor couldn't quite identify. Was it amusement? The human's eyes held something that made Vextor's chitin crawl, though he couldn't say why. I'm Colonel Marcus Rodriguez, Earth Defense Force. You boys lost. Vextor's translator struggled with the casual tone. The human spoke as if addressing equals, no, as if addressing inferiors. Impossible. We are the Krillian Empire. Surrender now, and we may show mercy in your servitude. Rodriguez actually chuckled, at the threat that had made entire systems capitulate. Mercy? That's cute. Listen, Bug Eyes, you've got exactly 1 chance to turn those tin cans around and head home. Otherwise, my people are going to use your ships for target practice. You dare. Clock's ticking, General. My people get antsy when they have to wait. And trust me, you don't want to see what happens when humans get antsy. The transmission cut. Insolent primitives. Vextor roared. All ships prepare for it. The tactical display erupted in warnings. The 3 human vessels had somehow multiplied into 30, appearing from nowhere like ghosts materializing from the void. Cloaking technology, his science officer gasped, her voice rising in pitch. But their civilization is only Class 2. They shouldn't have discovered quantum masking for another 1,000 years. Vextor stared at the display, watching the human ships arrange themselves with predatory precision. For the first time in his military career, he felt a cold tendril of uncertainty pierce his confidence. What exactly had they encountered? The battle began with the humans doing something unthinkable. They rammed their smaller vessels directly into Krillian shields. They're insane! The weapons officer screeched, his 4 hands dancing frantically across his console. They're using their ships as battering rams. But Vextor watched in growing horror as the human vessels, instead of disintegrating, punched through their shields like tissue paper. The impossible physics made his secondary brain ache. Those shields could withstand direct hits from antimatter torpedoes, yet these primitive vessels tore through them using nothing but velocity and what appeared to be sheer audacity. Emergency klaxons wailed as boarding pods attached to Krillian hulls with magnetic thuds that reverberated through the fleet. The pods didn't use any technology the Krillians recognized. They simply melted through the hull plating with some kind of molecular acid. General, they're inside the Reaper's claw. On the tactical feed, Vextor watched human soldiers pour into his sister ship. They moved wrong, too fast, too coordinated. Their forms blurred with speed that shouldn't be possible for bipedal organisms. When plasma fire hit them, they kept moving, their armor absorbing energy that would vaporize a Krillian warrior. When gravity traps caught them, they actually laughed, and pushed through fields that could crush battle tanks. Analysis complete, sir, his science officer reported, voice trembling, all 4 of her eyes wide with disbelief. The humans, they're operating at 400% standard biological efficiency. Their neural response time is, this can't be right. What? 12 milliseconds, sir? They're reacting before our weapons fire. It's as if they're predicting our attacks. Run a full spectrum analysis. Check for psychic abilities. No psychic signatures detected, General. They're just fast. Impossibly fast. Captain Zara Thompson of the Earth Defense Force grinned inside her exosuit as she tore through another Krillian bulkhead with her bare hands. The metal screamed as it parted, and she could hear the satisfying sound of alien panic on the other side. The aliens thought humans were just another soft, squishy species. They had no idea that humanity had spent the last century preparing for this moment, augmenting themselves with everything from nanomachines to synthetic muscle fibers, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Thompson to Rodriguez, she calmed, casually backhanding a Krillian warrior through a wall. Their armor's made of some kind of crystallized metal. Goes down easy with focused plasma. Also, they really don't like it when you rip their arms off. Copy that, Thompson. Try to leave some intact for the science teams. No promises, sir. These bugs are surprisingly fun to break. Vextor couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. A human soldier, cut in half by a plasma blade, continued firing while his lower body was regenerated by some kind of nanite swarm. The severed torso dragged itself forward with one arm, still shooting, still advancing while silvery threads knitted flesh and bone back together. Within 30 seconds, the soldier stood whole again, cracking his neck as if waking from a brief nap. Another human, decapitated by Subcommander Krexvar's ceremonial warblade, had his head reattached by a medic who moved with disturbing casualness. The medic slapped some kind of gel on the wound, held the head in place for 10 seconds, then literally slapped the soldier on the back and sent him back into battle with a cheerful, "You're good to go, Martinez." Sir, intercepted human communications suggest they call this Tuesday. What is Tuesday? Vextor's voice had lost its commanding timbre, replaced by something approaching hysteria. Hey! Day of the week, sir. They're implying this level of violence is routine. The Reaper's claw went dark on the tactical display. Then the Void Striker. Then 3 more ships in rapid succession, their IFF signals winking out like extinguished flames. Human soldiers weren't just winning, they were doing it while laughing, making wagers, competing for style points. One human audio transmission consisted entirely of soldiers arguing about whether a 360 no-scope kill counted if you used a plasma cannon instead of a kinetic rifle. General, his communications officer whimpered, all 4 of his auditory organs folded flat against his head in distress. I'm detecting music coming from the human boarding parties. Music? The word came out as a strangled whisper. Yes, sir. Something called heavy metal. They appear to be timing their attacks to coincide with what they call drum solos. One human squad is apparently competing to see who can match their killing rate to something called BPM. Lieutenant Jake Morrison punched through another Krillian warrior, his exosuit's speakers blaring ancient Earth music at volumes that would liquefy unprotected organs. The vibrations from the base alone were disrupting Krillian echolocation, but Morrison didn't care about tactical advantages, he just liked the way it made combat feel like a dance. Hey, Andrews. 20 credits says I can take down more bugs than you before the song ends. You're on, Morrison. Loser buys drinks when we get back to Terra. The Krillians, despite their 4 arms and superior numbers, couldn't match the humans' combination of enhancement drugs, cybernetic implants, and sheer, unbridled aggression. But what truly terrified them was how the humans treated warfare like a sport, death like an inconvenience, and the laws of biology like gentle suggestions. General Vextor Rodriguez's face appeared on screen again, this time from inside the bridge of the captured Reaper's Claw. Behind him, Krillian crew members sat in corners, rocking back and forth, their compound eyes unfocused with trauma. How's that Mercy looking now? This is impossible. Your species is barely spacefaring. You shouldn't have this technology. Vextor's voice cracked, his primary vocal cords straining with disbelief. Rodriguez laughed, a sound that made every Krillian on the bridge flinch. Technology? Oh, buddy. This isn't about technology. Want to know humanity's secret? Despite himself, despite every instinct screaming at him to cut the transmission and flee, Vextor leaned forward. We're completely, certifiably insane. Your species evolved from prey animals who learned to band together. You fight to survive. Rodriguez's scarred face split into a grin that belonged on an apex predator. We evolved from persistence hunters who would chase prey until it died of exhaustion. We'd run for days, following wounded animals until they collapsed from sheer terror and fatigue. We fight because it's fun. Fun? The word emerged as a shriek from all 4 of Vextor's vocal cords. Let me tell you about human history, Bug. We split atoms before we had computers. We went to our moon using slide rules and brass balls. We've been killing each other with increasing creativity for thousands of years, and when we ran out of ways to kill each other, we got bored and decided to kill everything else instead. Rodriguez gestured to something off-screen. A moment later, a human soldier walked by dragging what appeared to be a makeshift sled constructed from Krillian hull plating, loaded with severed Krillian weapons welded together into some kind of trophy. Private Johnson there? He's building what he calls modern art from your ship's debris. Says it's going to be a commentary on the futility of resistance or something. I don't get art, but I respect the hustle. The tactical display showed half the Krillian fleet disabled or destroyed. The humans had lost one ship. And according to intercepted communications, that was because the crew had bet they could board an enemy vessel using nothing but EVA suits and determination. They had won the bet. You want to know the real difference between us? Rodriguez continued, his cybernetic eye whirring as it focused. You stop fighting when you're wounded. We get angry. You retreat when outnumbered. We call it a target-rich environment. You fear death. We've got people volunteering to die just to see if our resurrection tech has any cool side effects. Spoiler alert, sometimes you come back with the ability to see new colors. Johnson's up to 12 extra spectrums now. Private Emma Watson floated through the void, her EVA suit's limited thrusters carrying her toward the next Krillian vessel. Around her, dozens of other humans did the same, a swarm of tiny, impossibly fragile figures assaulting warships with nothing but personal weapons and attitude. Watson to squad, she radioed. Remember, aim for the sensor arrays first. These bugs navigate by echolocation or something. Take out their sensors and they're blind. Copy that, Watson. Hey, think we'll make it back in time for movie night. If we don't, I'm haunting Morrison. He owes me 20 credits from last week's poker game. Vextor watched his empire's greatest fleet fall apart like children's toys. The humans weren't just winning through superior firepower or technology, they were winning through pure, concentrated madness. Sir, his advisor whispered, perhaps we should consider retreat. No. We are Krillian. We have conquered galaxies. The humans appear to have conquered death itself, sir. They're using their own corpses as improvised battering rams. They're playing something called Capture the Flag with our engine cores. One of them just challenged Subcommander Thexar to single combat using nothing but a metal stick they call a crowbar. Who won? The humans, sir. In 12 seconds. While intoxicated. The chemical analysis shows his blood alcohol content should have killed him 3 times over. They fight while poisoned? They call it liquid courage, sir. Sergeant David Mitchell wiped Krillian blood from his crowbar, then took another swig from his flask. You know, these bugs aren't half bad fighters. Shame they're so serious all the time. Around him, the Krillian command deck burned. He'd taken it solo after his squad decided to see who could capture a ship fastest. Mitchell had won by the simple expedient of walking straight through the main airlock while the Krillians were still trying to figure out how he'd survived exposure to space. The answer was simple. Humans had long ago learned to turn their greatest weakness, their fragile, easily damaged bodies, into their greatest strength. If you're going to die anyway, might as well die spectacularly. All remaining ships retreat. Vextor finally ordered, his voice breaking like shattered glass. The words tasted like poison on his tongues. Never in 8 centuries of conquest had a Krillian fleet retreated. Full withdrawal. But the humans weren't done. As the Krillian fleet tried to flee, human ships appeared from hyperspace in front of them. Then beside them. Then above and below. It was impossible. The energy signatures alone suggested they were burning through enough power to fuel a small star. How? Vextor demanded, his legs barely supporting his weight. How are they everywhere? His science officer, half her sensory organs burnt from a human flashbang grenade, struggled to explain through damaged vocal cords. Sir, they're not using standard hyperspace. They're punching holes in reality itself. The energy requirements alone should vaporize their ships. Should. Rodriguez's voice came over the comms, somehow on every frequency simultaneously. That's a word that's gotten a lot of species in trouble when it comes to humans. We heard the laws of physics more as suggestions. Guidelines, really? More like physics suggestions than physics laws. The final blow to Vextor's sanity came when sensors detected what the humans were using as fuel for their impossible drives. The readings had to be wrong. They had to be. Confirm these readings, he whispered. Confirmed, sir. They're burning their own dead converted into some kind of ultradense energy source. The conversion efficiency is over 2,000%. It shouldn't be possible. You use your fallen as fuel? The question came out as a horrified shriek. Waste not, want not, Rodriguez replied cheerfully. Besides, they volunteered. Hell, Johnson over there already picked out which engine he wants to power when his number's up. Says he wants to be part of the ship that breaks the galactic speed record. That's sick. That's demented. That's... Tuesday, Rodriguez finished. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Corporal Maria Santos patted the engine core of her assault craft affectionately. The metal was warm to the touch, pulsing with an almost organic rhythm. Thanks, Williams. Your sacrifice is getting us through space-time like a hot knife through butter. The core pulsed warmly, almost as if in response. The humans had found a way to preserve some kind of quantum consciousness in their converted dead, allowing fallen soldiers to continue serving even after death. It was beautiful, horrifying, and completely insane. The dead weren't gone, they were co-pilots, navigators, and apparently, considering the chatter on comms, backseat drivers. Hey, Santos, her gunner called out. Williams says to tell you to stop being sentimental and blow something up already. He's bored. Tell Williams he's been dead for 3 months. He can wait 5 more minutes. General Vextor stood in what remained of his bridge, watching the humans systematically disable the last of his fleet. They weren't even killing anymore. Just removing weapons, engines, and leaving the Krillians floating helplessly in space like insects with their wings plucked off. One human ship was actually using a tractor beam to arrange disabled Krillian vessels into what appeared to be a crude smiley face visible from several light-years away. Why? He asked Rodriguez when the human colonel finally boarded his flagship in person, stepping through the melted bulkhead with casual indifference. Why leave us alive? Rodriguez, now visible without the viewscreen between them, was even more terrifying up close. Scars crisscrossed his visible skin like a roadmap of violence. One eye was clearly cybernetic with at least 12 different scanning modes, and he moved with the easy grace of a predator completely confident in its supremacy. His armor bore kill tallies in dozens of alien scripts and what appeared to be a coffee cup holder welded to the chest plate. Because you're going to do something for us, General. You're going to go back to your empire and every other would-be conqueror out there, and you're going to tell them about humanity. Tell them what? Vextor's voice was barely a whisper, all 4 of his vocal cords harmonizing in defeat. That we've been waiting. That every horror story they've heard about us is true. That we've turned war into an art form, death into a joke, and physics into a suggestion box. Tell them that we don't conquer worlds, we collect sparring partners. And tell them. Rodriguez leaned in close, and Vextor saw something in those human eyes that would haunt him forever, not hatred, not bloodlust, but something far worse. Amusement. Joy. The eyes of a species that had looked into the abyss of their own mortality and decided to dive in headfirst while laughing. Tell them we're bored. And there's nothing more dangerous in this universe than a bored human with a starship and a point to prove. Behind Rodriguez, human soldiers were already placing bets on the next conflict. So, who's up for hitting that Zorvak's empire next week? Can't, got a wedding on Thursday. Jenny finally said yes. Congrats. How about the weekend after? Works for me. Bring your good armor. I heard they've got acid blood. Awesome. I love a challenge. Maybe we can convince them to join the League. League? Vextor asked weakly. Rodriguez grinned. Oh yeah, we're starting an intergalactic combat sports league. You guys get first invite as founding members. Think of it as aggressive diplomacy. Better than extinction, right? As his crippled ship jumped to hyperspace, General Vextor did something he'd never done in his centuries of life. He prayed. Not for victory, not for revenge, but for every other species in the galaxy to have the wisdom to leave humanity alone. Because the humans weren't conquerors. They were something far worse. They were gamers. And the galaxy was their playground. Epilogue. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session after reviewing General Vextor's report. The Krillian Empire, which had never lost a single conflict in 800 years, officially surrendered all claims to human space and paid reparations in the form of technology and resources. When asked what humanity intended to do with their newfound reputation as the galaxy's most feared warriors, Ambassador Catherine Phillips simply smiled. Oh, we're opening a theme park. Combat World, we're calling it. Different species can come test themselves against human soldiers in controlled environments. We're expecting it to be very popular. The Krillians already bought season passes. The council chamber fell silent. Theme park. Well, yeah. War's fun and all, but have you seen what we can do with roller coasters? Now that's terrifying. As the ambassador left, whistling something called Highway to Hell, the collected representatives of 1,000 worlds came to a unanimous, unspoken agreement. The humans were to be left alone. Forever.